Okay, good morning. Is it audible? So with regard to means of transport in plants. The means of transport in plants. In the first one, it is diffusion. As earlier you said, the short distance transport by diffusion, it is the passive, and cytoplasmic streaming, it is active. And in case of the diffusion, it is passive, and it is non-metabolic. No metabolic energy it is required. It is non-metabolic. And diffusion, it is entropy driven process. That is based on concentration gradient from high concentration to low concentration. So it is based on concentration gradient. That means high concentration to where it is low concentration. So it is entropy driven process. And diffusion, it is obvious in liquids, gases. In case of gases, it is more rapid. And this diffusion in solids rather than of solids, unlikely. You see this statement? Diffusion in solids rather than of solids is unlikely. This statement is going to be wrong. Diffusion in solids rather than of solids is likely. Suppose it is one solid, two solids. Suppose ice melts into water. So diffusion in solids rather than of solids is more likely. In this it is more likely. In this it is unlikely. So diffusion in solids rather than of solids is more likely. In this it is more likely. So between two solids there is no diffusion. From one solid you do expect what it is the diffusion. So diffusion in solids rather than of the solids it is likely. So in this it is likely. In this it is unlikely. Okay. So it is based on concentration gradient, high concentration to low concentration. And it is entropy driven process. We call it as. So diffusion in solids rather than of solid is most likely. And this diffusion in cells crossing membranes between cells and intercellular spaces to atmosphere. So intercellular spaces to atmosphere. So diffusion within the cell, crossing the membrane, between the cells and intercellular spaces to the atmosphere, that constitute what it is the diffusion. Okay. And this simple diffusion that is high concentration to low concentration. High concentration to low concentration. So in this diffusing molecules, how it is going to be? Diffusing molecules, small, uncharged, small, and it is uncharged because it has to cross the membrane of what it is the cell. Small, uncharged, lipophilic, because plasma membrane is composed of what it is lipids and protein. So it should be what it is lipophilic. Hydrophobic, small, uncharged, lipophilic, hydrophobic. Lipophilic it is soluble in lipids. Hydrophobic, small, uncharged, lipophilic molecule, and it is non-polar molecule. So it moves by means of what it is the simple diffusion. If it is small, uncharged, lipophilic, and hydrophobic, and it is non-polar, moves by means of what it is simple diffusion. And this simple diffusion, for example, transpiration, loss of water as a vapor from the leaf to the atmosphere, transpiration. Entry of CO2 into leaf, it is what it is diffusion. Aroma of the flowers, it is nothing but what it is diffusion. Diffusion. Okay. So diffusion may cross the membrane, may not cross the membrane. May cross the membrane in this it is without involvement of what it is membrane. So diffusion involves membrane is nothing but osmosis. Diffusion do not involve the membrane, nothing but what it is the gaseous exchange. That is also a key point. And as far as the physiology part concerned, it is a dynamic part of what it is the botany. Whatever the bits you learn from the different books, if you learn 100 bits, 101 is going to be the different. If you learn with great difficulty 1001 is going to be difficult. So better to have the idea, that is the concept of what it is the topic. That is very, very important. So the physiology part is a key part that constitutes transport in plant, mineral nutrition, photosynthesis, respiration, and growth regulators. It is a large part in case of what it is the botany part. So conceptual understanding is very, very important as far as the physiology part concerned right from the beginning. That is from diffusion to what it is the first lesson to what it is the last, the growth hormones. So the diffusion, it may cross membrane, may not cross membrane. May cross membrane, it is osmosis. May not cross membrane, it is gaseous exchange. So here it may cross membrane. It may cross membrane. It is osmosis. May not involve membrane. It is gaseous exchange. That is also MCQ. May involve membrane, may not involve what it is membrane. Within the cell, crossing the membrane, between the cells, and intercellular space to what it is atmosphere. It is simple diffusion, high concentration to low concentration. That is down the gradient. That is down the gradient. So simple, it is diffusion, it is small, uncharged, lipophilic, hydrophobic, non-polar. It moves by means of what it is simple diffusion. Suppose it is large, charged, lipophobic, hydrophilic, and polar molecule. It moves by what it is, other it is the carrier. We will discuss it. So in this, diffusion rates depends on diffusion is directly proportional to temperature. Diffusion is directly proportional to concentration gradient. Diffusion is indirectly proportional to size. Size decreases, diffusion rate increases. Distance decreases, diffusion rate what it is increases. Density decreases, diffusion rate what it is increases. Solubility in lipids increases, rate of what it is the diffusion what it is increases. So temperature, diffusion directly proportional to pressure. So it is indirectly proportional and it is directly proportional. So membrane and diffusion is directly proportional to membrane permeability. Okay. Okay, it is. So diffusion directly proportional to temperature. As temperature increases, membrane permeability what it is increases. Directly proportional to concentration gradient. Indirectly proportional to size. Indirectly to distance. Indirectly to density. Directly to what it is solubility in lipids. Directly proportional to what it is the pressure. And directly proportional to membrane permeability. This is also the key points with regard to the rate of diffusion depends upon these factors. And diffusion through membrane, nothing but osmosis. Diffusion through membrane, nothing but what it is osmosis. And if diffusing molecule molecules large charged hydrophilic lipophobic insoluble in lipid polar. If the diffusing molecule it is large, charged, hydrophilic, lipophobic, insoluble in lipid and polar molecule, also crosses membrane by carrier protein. Here one bit. The carrier nature it is organic substance, the protein. It carries what? The substances which are large, charged, hydrophilic, lipophobic, insoluble in lipid and polar molecule, which are present in case of it is membrane, carrier protein. So, diffusion of these molecules through carrier protein, what do you call it is? Facilitated diffusion. What do you call it is? Facilitated diffusion. So here facilitated diffusion is also a passive process because it is also what it is down the gradient, concentration gradient. So facilitated diffusion is down the gradient and it is high concentration to low concentration. So facilitated diffusion also it is passive. How it differs with simple diffusion? By requirement of or it is carrier. By requirement of or it is carrier. The word itself conveying its an facilitated diffusion. Diffusion of molecules facilitated by carrier. When it is going to facilitate it, if the molecule is large, charged, hydrophilic, lipophobic, insoluble in lipid and polar molecule crosses membrane with the help of what it is carrier. Those carrier nature it is protein, and these carrier proteins are present in plasma membrane, which allows these substances to cross the membrane from high concentration to low concentration. Simply it facilitates the process. These molecules, the diffusing molecule possess concentration gradient. Diffusion molecule should possess concentration gradient. Not carrier is not going to set up concentration gradient. Diffusing molecule should have the concentration gradient. It facilitates the process as it is unable to move through crossing this membrane because of these character. So it facilitates the process. So concentration gradient must be possessed by the molecule which is diffusing. Are you getting it? Okay. Simple facilitated okay. And these carrier protein, the carrier protein which is sensitive to inhibitors, chemical inhibitors. So carrier protein sensitive to chemical inhibitor because side chain of protein affected. The side chain is nothing but R group is going to be what it is affected. So facilitated carrier protein sensitive to what it is inhibitors, that is chemical inhibitor. So facilitated diffusion inhibited. So carriers are sensitive to chemical inhibitor, side chain of the protein affected. So R group is going to be affected. And these carrier proteins, what do you call it is? Channels. What do you call it is? Channels. It is ion channels and porins and aquaporins. Ion channels, porins and aquaporin. The channel carrier proteins which are gated, that is the open and gated, that is controlled. It is directly open, otherwise gated. What do you call it is? The channels which are open or gated concerned with transportation of particularly ion channels, porins for proteins, aquaporins for what it is water. So ion channels for ions, porins for proteins, it is for water. So carrier proteins which are specific in their action, okay, which are specific, it shows specificity, sensitive to inhibitor, down the concentration gradient, okay, ion channels, porins, aquaporins. So porins are nothing but carrier proteins present in case of plasma membrane. Concerned with the transportation of what is protein. Okay, small sized proteins. We'll see what are porins and aquaporins. Porins. The porins are carrier proteins with huge pores in plasma membrane allows small sized proteins to pass through. In this mitochondria, chloroplast, membrane, and membranes of a very key point. So porins are present in membranes of mitochondria, chloroplast, and membranes of some bacteria. Okay. Suppose question. Plasma membrane with huge pores called porins. True or false? Question 1. True or false? Plasma membrane with huge pores called porins. You study this statement, it is false. Plasma membrane is not going to have what is the pores. Plasma membrane that contain carrier protein having what it is the pores. You study this statement. Carrier proteins with huge pores in plasma membrane. That means the pores are not present in membrane. Pores are present in what it is the carrier protein that is present in plasma. Okay, so this is a false. Present in mitochondrial. Suppose it is plasma membrane, it is carrier protein. Okay, now plasma membrane not having any that is pores. The plasma membrane contains the carrier protein having huge pores. Okay. Okay, Shishavali, Asma, Mesh, ready? Okay. So with regard to the porins, carrier protein with huge pores in plasma membrane allows small sized proteins to pass through, present in mitochondrial chloroplast membrane and membranes of some bacteria. And aquaporins. So aquaporins, which are carrier proteins, 8 different proteins. So this aquaporins causes bulk movement of. So carrier protein, the carrier protein aquaporins having different 8 different kinds of the protein, and it is responsible for bulk movement of or it is water. So water simply crosses the membrane, that is osmosis, also through the carrier, that is aquaporins. Okay. Plasma membrane, the carrier protein, and this carrier protein first takes the molecule and conformational change for what it is transportation, conformation change, it rotates, then releases molecules. So first it picks up the molecule and some conformational change in case of the carrier protein, then it rotates, then release these molecules to what it is inside. So the carrier proteins, which are nothing but which carries the substances present in plasma membrane. And there is another point. Carrier protein do not cause net transport of substances from low to high concentration. Involved in facilitated diffusion. The carrier protein do not cause net transport of substances from low to high concentration in facilitated diffusion. We're getting it. Carrier protein do not cause net transport of substances from low to high concentration in facilitated diffusion. Because low to high concentration require metabolic energy, that is ATP. Low to high concentration require metabolic energy, that is ATP. That is called active transport. So how many kinds of transports are there? Diffusion, simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport. So low to high concentration require metabolic energy, that is active transport. In active transport, what do you call these carriers? It is the pumps which are involved from low to what it is high concentration. So carrier protein do not cause net transport of substances from low to high concentration in facilitated diffusion, because when low to high concentration require metabolic energy, that is ATP. Okay. So facilitated, it is always high to low. Activities low to what it is high concentration. It is down the gradient, it is up the gradient. So active transport, it is up the gradient, it is down the gradient. It is up the gradient. Low to high, high to low. Are you getting it? Okay. Low to high. Okay. And carriers, what do you call it is porters. The carriers, what do you call it is the porters. The porters which are passive, symporter and antiporter. We'll see what is this. It is plasma membrane, and in this plasma membrane which are the carriers. Suppose this carrier transport, suppose one ion, one direction. One ion, one direction. What do you call it is uniport. What do you call it is uniport. Uniport, one ion, one direction. Here, two ions in the same direction. What do you call it is symport. Two ions in same direction. Two ions or molecules same direction. And porter, what do you call symporter? Here it is uniporter, it is symporter. So ions in opposite direction. Two ions in opposite direction. What do you call it is antiport. So uniport, symport and antiport. And two ions at a time, that is symport and antiport, collectively what do you call it is co-transport. So uniport followed by co-transport. The co-transport that involves the symport as well as what it is antiport. So symport and antiport, which are the passive, and uniport it is active. Uniport it is active. You see further in this. So it is plasma membrane, it is the carrier. So how many carriers involved in case of symport? One carrier involved in symport, two ions at a time. In same direction, it is opposite direction. So uniport, symport and what it is antiport. Uniport, symport and what it is antiport. Uniport, symport and antiport. And it is uniport, co-transport. Uniport, one ion, one direction. One ion, one direction. Two ions at a time. Two ions at a time. It is co-transport. Co-transport. Symport antiport. Two ions in same direction. Two ions in opposite direction. Okay, it is. Double question number 2. Uniport followed by co-transport. Question number 3. Co-transport follows uniport, true or false? Question number 2, question number 3, uniport followed by cotransport. Modi Lucy false, Venkatesh false, Pavan Sagar true, 2 true, 3 false, Venkatesh 3 false. You see the statement. Uniport followed by cotransport. Okay. It is true. Nothing but cotransport follows for it is uniport. It is also true. Both true. Okay. Uniport followed by cotransport. So cotransport follows what? It is uniport. Sheshavari 2 false, Mahesh Reddy 3 false. Okay, it is uniport followed by. Are you not getting it? Uniport followed by cotransport. So cotransport follows what? Uniport. So for cotransport, there must be what it is? Uniport. So uniport followed by cotransport. Okay. Rest okay. Okay. And active transport. Okay. The active transport is also what it is? Carrier mediated. This carrier is nothing but protein. Okay. So sensitive to chemical inhibitors. Okay, it is sensitive to chemical inhibitors. In this active transport, low concentration to high concentration. So it is of the gradient. So it is against concentration gradient. It is against concentration gradient. At expense of metabolic energy, that is ATP. Suppose if you use metabolic inhibitor, which is going to affect, metabolism is going to be affected, and which process is going to be affected? Active transport is affected. So the active transport inhibited by metabolic inhibitors. Right or wrong? It is right. Active transport also inhibited by what it is? Chemical inhibitor. It is also right because carrier is involved. So sensitive to what it is? Inhibitor. As metabolic energy it is involved. So it is inhibited by what it is? Metabolic inhibitors. The chemical inhibitors or metabolic inhibitor does not have impact on what it is simple diffusion. In these carriers which are involved low to high, these carriers what we call pumps. Pump is from low to what it is high. So here carriers called pumps. Everyone is a key point. In writing the matter, no problem. That is the carrier protein involved in transportation of the substances from low concentration to high concentration by utilizing metabolic energy is nothing but active transport. So in active transport, what is involved? Carrier is involved. So carrier is a protein. So sensitive to what it is? Inhibitor. And in case of active transport, metabolism it is involved. So metabolic energy it is utilized. So metabolic inhibitors is going to have this impact. So carriers not involved in simple diffusion. Carriers involved in facilitated and active. Inhibitors, whether it is a chemical inhibitor or metabolic inhibitor, does not have impact on simple diffusion. But chemical inhibitors having impact on facilitated as well as active transport. But metabolic inhibitors going to impact on what it is only active transport. So tomorrow we'll see the difference between diffusion, facilitated diffusion and active transport. So better to maintain a separate notes for what is the physiology part. So each and every point it is very, very important. And there should not be a further matter in case of the plant physiology. And we are discussing in detail every paragraph or it is the text and additional matter. If required, I include it in case of or it is while discussion. So better to take each and every point. Okay. Okay.